Hello there, Jose Rodriguez here. Today I was reading a post from an individual who just purchased a P600. Apparently a very good photographer, but had never printed before. And of course, this is the Epson P600 or SureColor P600, which uses the high definition 9-color K3 system. He began right off the bat using some very expensive fine art paper. The brand is irrelevant. He downloaded the profile for it and began to print. And he is not getting a color match to his monitor. He posted the actual image, and then he posted the printed result after he scanned it, and it doesn't match. The printed result seems a little bit browner and more saturated than the original image that he literally just posted the file. And of course, we are spending all day long going back and forth with this guy, trying to figure out what the problem may be. And of course, I already know what the problem is because he just jumped right into printing. He did not do what I recommended for everyone to do before you begin to print your own images using expensive papers. By the way, I got an unlike with that video. I guess some folks don't like the truth being told to them. That's fine. Go ahead and hit me with an unlike. I'm telling you the truth, folks. This is what you got to do before you actually begin printing your own images. I assume that he did not do any of this. So the recommendation was, did you ever even try to print with one of the many available standard images that you do not edit? So therefore, you do not introduce a bias by editing. You print it directly. And you get this. This is what you should get. You should get a pretty much a perfect image. Now, such as this one as well. Now, when you go ahead and you start printing your own images, what do you do to your images when you load them onto your computer? Most people do some sort of post-processing. It could be very minor. If the image is perfect right out of the camera, you really don't have to do anything other than possibly crop it a tiny little bit. Just send it right to print. We don't know what his image color space was, what he started from, whether it was converted to some other format. We don't know if his monitor was calibrated, so it could be many different reasons. We don't know if his yellow is even printing fully, because the color cast that he obtained tells us that possibly his yellow channel is not printing fully. And that yellow channel is a bear to detect with your naked eye. A lot of people can't even see it, and they just assume that it's printing 100%. So it's a number of possibilities. But assuming that that was correct and everything was working, the nozzle check was correct, then it's simply your monitor. Your monitor is off and you are editing color, you're editing brightness, you're editing contrast, you're editing your image and basically changing it from the possibility of it being correct to begin with. Now you are skewing it. The printer doesn't know that. The printer is only connected via a USB or by Wi-Fi to your computer, and all it's doing is receiving what you give it. If what you give it is correct, the print should emerge looking correct. If what you give it is not correct because you edited it and now it's no longer neutral, for instance, then of course the printer will produce either a dark print, a light print, or a skewed print color-wise. So very easy, folks. When you first get your printer, do not get ahead of yourself. Do the nozzle check. This is a Canon nozzle check, but you can do a nozzle check for your Epson. It will tell you tons of information about your printer. Do a standard image. Just use the driver. Pick the paper type with an Epson sRGB. With a Canon, just click on photo printing. Quality and size. This is not even necessary to do. You should be able to get gorgeous prints like this. This is on matte paper. This is matte paper using the matte paper setting and a custom profile. This is matte paper using the rear feed and the Fine Art 1 setting, which utilizes matte black ink. Here is utilizing photo black ink. There's a slight difference. You can see how much deeper the blacks are. This is a very dark gray rather than a black. This is a black, black, black. And so if you like this look, then go ahead and print using the regular matte setting. But that's getting ahead of ourselves into some other subject. But at any rate, once you certify your printer as printing correctly without any influence from external sources like the monitor, then you can go ahead and start printing on these other papers or non-brand papers. In other words, non-Canon or non-Epson papers. And just because he downloaded that ICC profile from that company for that particular paper does not mean that profile was correct to begin with. Did you soft proof that profile to see what the results would have been on paper? That will tell you a color shift. That will tell you a contrast shift. That will tell you a lot. It's not a perfect tool, but it will give you an idea of what that profile will do to that image when it goes to print, basically to paper. And I believe at that point he was using a very fine art matte paper. So, did you switch over to the correct black? Did you, many things that he could have done wrong, but by directly jumping over to immediately printing with some third-party super expensive paper, you're introducing all kinds of other variables that you should have eliminated by basically following the simple suggestion. And that is to start with a nozzle check, standard print using your driver. And then once you establish that the printer can indeed produce a perfect print without any further influence from the monitor or you, then you can proceed to start not only printing your images, assuming of course you calibrated your monitor. That's important. The minute you start to edit, you have to have a calibrated source where you view your images. Without that calibrated source, you're looking at an image that could be displayed wrong, and then you are compensating that image by skewing your color balance, your brightness, your contrast, and so on. And at the end, you're sending an image that's already skewed in one direction or another. So avoid that. Just follow what, not just me, this is not me. I'm actually repeating information that I have learned from true experts. Okay, they're the ones that preach this day and night. And I also was very stubborn at my beginning portion of my printing career, so to speak. And so I fell to all of these problems, and just due to my stubbornness, I really wasted a ton of time when I could have simply just listened to what they were suggesting and immediately start producing great prints right off the bat. All right, listen, if this hits you kind of on the wrong side, just bear with it. I'm telling you the truth. This is no BS, okay? This is how you should proceed, and you will spare yourself a ton of headaches. This guy is pulling his last few hairs off his head trying to figure out how to solve this, and it's very easy to solve, okay? All right, thank you once again. Please subscribe, share, and like, and as always, happy printing, everybody. Bye-bye.